Alright everyone, welcome along there. Week 7 extras. So what I thought we'd have a look at today was kind of one of the things that's come up as I was going through and doing things. So you notice that we've had to switch over from really using the data marts to going back to using the traditional PBIX format, just to keep everything running and to keep it moving. There's a couple of features that I think are just still pushing it back. It's not quite ready for prime time, and I think these data marts are definitely not ready for use within a deployment pipeline. So it's fine. I'll keep working, keep doing these things to see if we can iron out some of the troubles that we've got or some of the challenges that appear. But overall, I suspect we're probably going to go, well, it's nice to know. As I say, I'm still going to keep trying to make these work because I want to uncover any issues that there are. Because really, for me, getting these data marts to work is going to be a massive game changer for Power BI deployments across many of my clients. So let's cut an hour into the Power BI service and see what I mean and see what we need to get done. Alright, so here we are in our deployment pipeline. Now the challenge that you've got is as you move things from development through into your test and then through into production, you're changing the config of all the information. Data isn't part of the promotion scheme, so you need to refresh each time. The other thing with this is that realistically, for me as a business, my development environment, I don't need to necessarily be refreshing on the same schedule. Likewise, my test environment, there might be an impact on production. If these are running against a production server, if we're having this discussion again, we've already had it earlier in the video series, so I'm not going to get into it. But suffice to say that you cannot assume a production refresh schedule in development or in test, and there might be reasons why you couldn't have those. For our example, wouldn't make a difference. Of course we could. But it's interesting because I've been trying to work out what's the best way to set this all up. And kind of what comes back is that, you just set it up once you've done your deployment. I don't like that. So how can we do it and actually have it running properly and get it set up so that everything runs as it should do? Because bearing in mind, this data set isn't going to get refreshed just because I've promoted it, okay? It's going to need me to hit the refresh button for it to actually refresh, and that's not going to work. So the way I came up with doing it was either you follow their advice and guidance, and well, first off I thought, well, there's got to be a way, hasn't there, in the rules to be able to say, in the rules for this data set, do something, and it isn't. And I was kind of like, why is that not there? That's kind of, for me, was, well, this must be really sensible, straight in there. It's not, right? Don't know why. Should be there. It makes sense for it to be there, to be able to schedule a refresh. That's kind of such a basic for these deployment pipelines to be working. If that's not the case, and then we go to the workspace, we can see that within the workspace, we have the capability of saying, let's go to the properties of it. Let's set up under my scheduled refresh, keep it up to date. See, I've set a daily 1 AM, okay? Simple. And really where this takes me to is the idea of using Power Automate again, okay? And the amount of time I keep going, Power Automate it, okay? You need to have a data set that refreshes monthly. Power Automate, okay? You need to do this. Power Automate. The amount of times, right? We get these bizarre questions. You go, yeah, just Power Automate will do it. No worries. So I've got some flows already in here. So I thought, well, let's just create a new flow. And we're going to create an automated flow. And this flow, NYC dataset refresh. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this all environments. Okay, just environments, yeah. Right, and the refresh, the trigger for this is going to be when a Dataflow refresh completes. Okay, so we're going to create that. Okay, so for our workflows that we've got, right, if you remember, they're all running from based on this Dataflow within not me app workspace, it'd be Dataflow workspace. Dataflow workspace, New York water towers. It's going to be New York water inspections. Okay, so everything's running based on this. So what we can do is we can then trigger Power BI, refresh a dataset. So this time we'll start by refreshing New York water tower development, Water 2.0. New step, Power BI, refresh a dataset. This is going to be from our test. New water power test. New. Let's go straight to this, refresh a data set. This one will be production. That. Hit save. Okay, so at this point I've set up a data flow that refreshes 3. But in practice, you wouldn't want to do this, right? I've done it because I think it's important for you to see you're not tied to just doing one thing. The reality would be, if you needed to have all 3 of these going through, you would be sensible to do it this way. But you can start to piece together what you can do within your Power BI data flows, right? One of the things that we can also get out, for example, is actually what happened. What was the status of the data flow? Did it refresh correctly? Did it cause it? Was there an error? Okay, because it's not saying it's completed successfully, it's just saying it's completed, so it's run. So we can actually do all sorts of other things to start to build up logic in this. And I've done a ton of these automations across lots of different clients. We've read in the results of these, we've triggered different refreshes, we've set up lists that actually then you record your job successes on. So we actually start to record and log the refreshes or the successes of our Power Automate scripts and what's going on. All of these things work really well and are really simple to do, and the benefit comes after 6 months, after 12 months, when everyone's kind of forgotten, well, what were we doing? And suddenly you can go and track, oh, this error means this. Actually, you can see within the logs, it makes a huge difference. So I would definitely recommend having a look and seeing what goes on within Power Automate and not being afraid to really start getting in there and kicking the tires. For the sake of this one, it's just going to refresh the data set in all 3 of our environments. And that's all we really need, isn't it? So the 3 data sets will be refreshed. Everything should be up to date when the master one resets, the data flow resets. You could, of course, have set that up, or I could have set that up using a schedule. So we can set it up to use a schedule. And that's often the way if you've got big, complex refresh cycles. You can start it with a schedule from Power Automate, have it go, have it do it. And note as well that we've got triggers, and the trigger can be the completion of the previous one. Doesn't matter whether it's success or failure, it's completion, and you can then track the status at the end. So what we could do, for example, is if we look at, I'm going to add an action here. Let's initialize a variable. call it string. And you see, you've got this refresh status. That's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so because you've got these refresh statuses here for it, you can then use branching logic to actually trigger what you do. And it could be refresh it again. It could be use that concept of a SharePoint list that I've mentioned before to increment something and have a variable that you're incrementing. And then you start to say, well, refresh it once, twice, 3 times maybe. And then after the 4th time, email me, tell me something's gone wrong, try refreshing it again, email me. After 10 times, stop, or, you know, the likes. But you can kind of figure that out, because it might just be a case, like with so many of these things, that whatever you're scheduling, you've got a conflict at that particular point, and human interaction isn't necessarily going to fix it. So you could automate the tries a couple of times before you say, do you know what, someone needs to do something, and then we could monitor and see, is there anything going on there? It's a very nice way of working with these. So I'm just going to delete this because we don't need that in here, that step. Okay, I just wanted you to see that status is kind of presented straight there. So what have you reckon then? Okay, now, but always be aware that you've got that Power Automate option as well. It's very powerful the way that it works and the way that it deals with stuff externally or outside of your main tool set. And then the nice thing as well is, because you can trigger based on a completed event, you don't have Power Automate scripts that start and then wait for the thing to finish. So you wouldn't have one triggering a Dataflow refresh, wait for the Dataflow refresh to complete, and then do something else. You'd have one trigger the Dataflow refresh, and then when the Dataflow is refreshed, run another one. So you end up with these, you get these natural breakpoints across them that allow you to build up a very complex, essentially you're just building the connectors. So join A to B, and then, oh, in the event of this, go back and retry A, but if it was a success, go to B. If it failed A more than 3 times, send email. You can do all these things, all the branching logic is there within them, and yet they're very quick, easy, simple, drag and drop, lightweight. The complexity comes as you get used to them and as you start to build them up. So you'll have to let me know if you want a really, really in-depth piece of work on this. Set up a list and get some stuff going and start to piece that together and see if we can show what's going on across our environment. It is possible. I just need to do a bit more. I might do that, and we might do that as a demo, one of the extra videos. Again, let me know if you want us to. Next week, we're going to focus really heavily, though, on mapping. Okay, maps seems to be something that really comes across a lot, and lots of people are really keen to get the most out of it and to understand what is going on. So come back for week 8. We're going to look at maps in both the main video and the extras video, and we'll see really the difference between the 3 main maps that you've now got within the Power BI platform. So those are just the maps. Maps. You've got Azure Maps is in there, and we're also going to look at the shape maps. There's the 3 main. Esri Maps is in there, but unless you've got an Esri subscription, you're not going to use it. If you've got an Esri subscription, you're probably going to use it, and it's just kind of, you're used to it because it's their visual based on their stuff. So I don't know what I can really bring to the table with that one. But come back next week and let's catch up and see what's going on with it. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Ta-da.